Hey everybody, welcome to What's the Function? And today I'm here with David Elkins and we're going to be talking about Teams Voice. So, let's get started like we normally do. What's the function of Teams Voice?
Well, Teams Voice is out there to replace any business class phone system that you may be using outside of Microsoft. For most businesses, you already have Teams. You already use Teams as your communication platform internally. You use it for your meetings because it would be pointless to pay for a Microsoft bundle and then not use the meeting platform that comes with it included as part of your bundle, and then to also do Zoom.
We will talk about later is you can technically use Zoom Voice or WebEx Voice or other platforms directly with Teams. That is a possibility. It's not out of the question.
Yeah, they do have branching services that can connect, but it doesn't make any sense for any SMB business to adopt many platforms for many different purposes when one platform is an industry leader, which Teams Voice and Teams itself is at 320 million.
Yeah, the user count on Teams is insane now. It's become...
It's huge and it's massive.
And
it there's no way to describe just how much 320 million people is, because that number is simply unfathomable, the amount of people that are using this platform. But it doesn't make any sense to not also use the voice component, because it's easy to access. You're already using the Teams app and you can use it from anywhere they use the Teams app. It's fully featured across all the different iterations, browser, desktop, and your phone. But it also frees you from having to absorb another bill from another place. It simply allows you to absorb it into your Microsoft costs that you're already paying for. You already have the platform.
Well, and they're unbundling
Teams, thanks
but
to EU.
But you will still be able to get it, I believe, within your E3, E5, Business Premium, standard Microsoft packaging.
Yeah, I don't think that they're so much unbundling it as they are offering bundles without Teams.
Yeah.
So they're not going to remove it from E5. They're going to offer an alternative to the E5 that does not come with Teams added in automatically, which, is the smart move. Just, put on something instead of changing something that already works. But for Teams Voice, there's many different options for integrating into other services, as far as using Teams as your backend and simply putting a call manager on top of it. So even if you're a large organization that's used to many different features that are available on something like Cisco or...
Yeah, there's a list of call center providers out there.
Hundreds of them. That will work with Teams as a backend and simply allow you to utilize Teams and the transportation of your call data over Teams, but use a more familiar system on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's not just cut and dry. For most SMB businesses, and you just need a phone line so people can call you, you don't need anything on top of your regular Teams Voice offerings. It has everything that's included. It includes a large number of features for accessibility, like translation and transcription for people who are, either low hearing experience or need something to follow along with the call. But there's really no better option right now for SMB than Teams Voice if you're already using the Teams platform for all your other meetings.
Yeah.
Keep it in one place and just use a platform that's already familiar to both you and your users.
And one of those things that it does give you is that level of control that you're already using within, like, Teams as a platform or Microsoft 365 as a platform, right? So when you're talking about your standard RBOC controls, you can start to use that to press down through Teams. So like things like groups that you're already using, maybe, as a team or as a SharePoint site or something, you can actually utilize those groups in your call queues, correct?
Yeah, you can target both the channels within your existing teams, so that if you have a team of people, like let's use the easy one, marketing, they're supposed to be taking calls. If everybody who's in the marketing channel is supposed to be taking calls from a specific number, set up a call queue, assign that number to it, and you can point it directly at that channel, and that's all you need to do. You're bringing voice directly to that group of people that already exist.
Yeah.
So it relies on already pre-built Teams infrastructure, as well as utilizing the deliverability of the 365 groups themselves for Outlook access and all of the different components that Teams and 365 is already bringing, you're already using.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of the structure that you're probably already, if you're using Teams and you're using SharePoint or you're using Intra ID, if you're using these platforms, you most likely have already created security groups. You've already created Microsoft 365 groups for storage or mailbox or whatever. You can reuse those groups. And that's one of the things that we try to do or look at is there already some structure there that we can utilize for voice? And it's not always the case, right?
It's not always the case, and then sometimes those groups can be defunct or not used anymore. Nobody's managing them, and that's one of the nice things about it is that you can target groups and channels and teams with this. So you don't need to give your user base admin level access to the team's platform to be able to manage who's going to be receiving a call. You can simply target a group and have owners be able to remove and add people to that group so that they can take those calls. So they don't need any sort of special RBAC permissions, and they're just owners of that group, and they can add people to it and remove them from those call queues as on the fly as they go.
And we see this as being really useful if you have like a call center, right? Or you have people that are on shift work. Being able to add yourself or remove yourself from a queue is a nice feature, but that can be taken one level up and say, okay, well, you can add or remove people from this group or team as a group owner or a team manager, and just, like you said, extend the features that you're already using. So it is kind of a no-brainer to just, accept this, that it's there.
Yeah, it's existing infrastructure. You already have it. If you're using the Microsoft platform, it's already built in. You're already utilizing it. So just literally layer Teams Voice on top. And one of the nice things about this is you're going to be paying for a calling plan of some sort, or you're using pay as you go, and communication credits, as they used to be called. But if you're doing that, it doesn't cost you anything to get your phone numbers into Teams.
Yeah.
A lot of other phone systems will, charge you based on the amount of numbers that you're bringing to port those numbers over. That's not a thing with Teams. A lot of the process is automated. We had somebody who we sent the port request, and it got approved by the owner, and it got approved by the port team within 60 seconds. So there's automated processes talking between Teams and these other platform providers for phone numbers.
And I'm glad you brought up other platform providers. So one really cool thing that I've seen is this Mobile Connect idea. And that's really neat because we have a lot of frontline companies. You could think of these as like construction companies, hospitals, things like that, where they actually give their employees phones. It's very common practice to give your employee a phone in these industries. And these people live and die on that cell phone number. Some people have had this cell phone number for 15 years, 20 years, whatever. And when you tell them, well, I'm going to give you a new number in Teams, well, that's kind of annoying because now they're going to have two phone numbers. And while this can be great to be able to separate personal and business, in a lot of cases, they already have. They have two phones. So now they have two phones, and then one of those phones now has two phone numbers. And that would be your Teams phone number and your mobile phone. But with Mobile Connect, we're able to actually, the cell phone providers, depending on your provider and your country, are able to actually handle that call flow and whether it should be on the mobile phone or the desktop phone and be able to transfer back and forth.
Yep, and you're bringing in directly with your provider. So if you have an existing contract with something like Sprint or what's it, T-Mobile now?
Yeah, it's just it's all T-Mobile. But I think all the big three in America have it.
If you're bringing that contract to Teams and you want to be able to utilize existing phones, existing numbers, existing setups, it operates pretty much the same way as any other external device to Teams. It simply has that call flow, and that call routes out to that phone on that phone number, registering that as a device that communicates with the Teams service instead of going through the Teams app, which is not a great big step.
It can be cumbersome, though.
It can be cumbersome. It's not the easiest thing. It's not a great big step for a lot of our clients who use their cell phones on a day-to-day basis. They actually love that they can get rid of multiple phones.
Yes.
You can use the Teams app to do all of your business calling, and then you use your regular phone for all of your personal. And it's in the same device.
That is a great idea if you are one of those people that your organization allows BYOD. So if your organization allows BYOD, this is a perfect solution because now you can really truly separate business from your personal life and
on the device level.
Yeah, on the device level. And that's what's really cool. And I mean, you can even deploy this via an Intune policy, and there's a lot of other things that you can do to handle BYOD. But I just thought it was really cool that they've really thought out the different markets and the different industries and how they handle telephony. Because while telephony can be the easiest thing in the world, and you can have like one phone that rings an office and there's just someone picking it up, that's the easiest version. Or it could be a very complex version with shared calling and call queues and failover groups. And, like we have at FSI, we have our entire service desk that's moved over to a shared calling method.
All through Teams.
Yeah, so why don't you explain, like, to those who don't understand how shared calling kind of functions and why you might want to take that method over individual calling plans.
So as shared calling as it is on Teams is not a new concept when it comes to phone systems entirely. It is basically allowing a group of people to call out and identify as a single phone number. So for our service desk, everybody who is a service desk member, they do not have DIDs. They do not have direct numbers assigned to their accounts. You cannot pick up a phone and call them directly, unless you're calling them direct over Teams. But for the purpose of a call center, this is great because there's no mask that's needed.
Correct.
There's no obfuscation that needs to go into place in order to prevent someone from circumventing your help desk processes for your phone calls. Everybody in the organization who is assigned to the shared calling plan has an emergency dynamic address that is assigned to them, has a separate voice route policy, which is configured and doesn't actually need anything in Teams set up. It just needs separate policy. And then you have your actual shared calling policy, which also supports emergency dialing. I'll talk about that in a second. The shared calling simply allows everyone to call out and identify as your main number. And when users call back to that person, they go back through
the call
queue as you intended by going step 1, step 2, step 3, instead of being able to circumvent it by calling someone direct. Now, some people wanted still to be able to be reached at a certain number, so you can do some things like put in a route on a phone number to go to somebody if you have that situation. But for the purpose of having a call center, this is a normal feature. Most call center systems do not have DIDs set to all of the agents who can pick up on a phone number. They are there in order to respond to a phone call coming to that line as a primary function, so they do not need DIDs. But Teams didn't have that for a while, but now with the implementation of shared calling, and now that it's a GA feature, now it's something that a lot of companies need to start looking at. If you have a body of people who are only supposed to be receiving calls and making calls as a call center, you don't need to buy a calling plan for each one of those members. They only need access to the Teams system. And if you have E3 or E5, you just need to get them onto Teams phones.
Which they can use a laptop, an iPad, a cell phone. I mean, any device that is certified.
Any device that can get to Teams. And then it still takes PowerShell at this point to enable them for enterprise calling, but that's a single PowerShell line. And then every single one of those people is enabled for the service. They don't need a calling plan. All you have to do is put some sort of pay-as-you-go minutes eating plan on the actual auto attendant that they're calling as. So no calling plans. You take 30 people, you buy calling plans for each one of them. If you're using E5, that's $14 a person. Removing all of those, you're saving a few $100s every month, and everyone still has all the same capabilities and features.
And you don't have that circumvention of your support line or your call center, which we did see. I mean, now that it sometimes you do want people to be able to reach you directly, and we have uses for that. But for that main line, that needs to just be distributed out. And a lot of people have the same exact issue. It's actually really commonplace. I was shocked that it wasn't a feature until recently. We basically had to develop Teams to fit the mold that we wanted to handle call center stuff. Or you had to pay for a third party.
Or you needed like a third party solution that's set on top of Teams.
Yeah.
But Teams is coming out with a lot of those features. I'd say it's still missing some very advanced features.
Yes.
Like some of the older phone systems have had in place. But for how quickly Teams has developed, we're going to see a lot of that here in the next 2 years probably.
And I found some of the features that people are looking for might be a part of other platforms. So, for instance, call recording or for quality assurance and that type of stuff. That's actually not a feature of Teams, but you can use Teams for it. That's a feature of omni-channel support in Dynamics.
Which they actually have rolled out policies to enable that for Teams on the policy basis for everybody.
Which is nice.
So if you're using that and you're using that Dynamics integration, you can enable the policy to record everyone's phone calls from Teams directly. So they are bridging the gap with that between the different services. And as well as you said about direct calling, when it comes to emergency dialing, It requires a secondary phone number, but what Teams will do is if someone on your support team, say there's 30 people and one of them calls emergency services, they get a secondary phone number that you identify when you're setting up shared calling, assigned to them for 60 minutes. So if they get disconnected from emergency services,
they can call back
they
directly.
will call back to that person directly because they have a new phone number assignment automatically for 60 minutes.
And this is a lot of the dynamic E911. And
Yep. So this also comes with the dynamic E911 for location services, so that even if you have a location set to the phone number like you have to do when you assign it, the dynamic E911 policy will pull their location data from their Teams client and send that with their emergency call.
Yeah, which is kind of what's nice about the Teams clients is you're going to have things like your iPhone will send the location, your iPad will send the location, your desktop computer can send the location. These are all designed to be dynamic E911. And a lot of that came out during COVID because people were everywhere and E911 was, very difficult to set up if you have a distributed workforce like everyone did during COVID.
Yeah, COVID kind of accelerated the development of Teams because everyone was moving to it, and Microsoft saw the need for all of these features to be available.
It happened very fast.
Very quickly got pushed to the forefront.
It really did. And, what are some of the features that, you would like to see? I mean, we've talked about a lot of the features that we like and that we've used as far as, easy to roll out voice. You can utilize a lot of your security settings that you already have. There's security policy, which we didn't even get into. And some of these things do require a Teams Premium license.
Some of them do. Some of it I can see, like as far as features that we like, I do love the ability to both translate and transcribe even a phone call.
Very
so that
nice.
When you're calling someone, that is like a Teams Premium feature. But just the way I see it going, I can see that being transformed into just an accessibility feature that's available to everybody.
Yeah.
Once the AI that's backing that is more widely spread throughout Microsoft's systems, because right now it still is a pretty hefty consumption cost for them.
Yeah. I mean, the translation, I think you can get transcription you can get for free. Translation is the one.
It's the Teams Premium. Because translation is just automatically like available for any Teams call, just as an ADA compliant thing.
Yeah.
So, that's there. That's nice. But I could see the translation getting added in down the line automatically as just another compliance feature.
It would be really nice. I mean, there are some gated features. Some things that you don't think about in Teams Premium, like the custom landing page.
It's custom backgrounds.
Or the custom backgrounds. Or, deploying custom backgrounds. Like, Teams has had custom backgrounds for a really long time. And when Teams first came out and Teams meetings took hold, we were in the middle of COVID. And all of a sudden, everybody has these fun backgrounds, right? Like, that was a thing that everybody did. And there was no central management of them. And it kind of went haywire. And then everybody started using, like, Intune policies or RMMs to be able to, like, go into this one file and add in the backgrounds. And even then, it wasn't perfect. So now with Teams Premium, you can actually centrally manage and deploy all of that, which is nice. But generally speaking, going to be pricier for SMB. And, you might only do it for a certain group of people. Maybe it's your customer-facing people, like your sales team or something like that.
Yeah, not everybody in the organization is going to need that. And being able to publish the backgrounds for people in your organization is not, they don't all need Teams Premium.
Yeah,
they
correct.
See some of these features. And really, the people who need Teams Premium are the people who are meeting with external people, leading a lot of these meetings or doing a lot of the scheduling so they can enable the features.
Yeah.
That is the big draw of Teams Premium. But the voice side is the whole translation, transcription, all of that.
And then the policy on the meetings, right? I think that's
policies
kind of the
on meetings, the watermarking and stuff like that. Like all of that is Teams Premium at this point. I can see a lot of those features getting absorbed into
whatever in the future.
Yeah. Because right now it's just, I think Microsoft is still kind of struggling with getting all of the AI features pushed out to everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of AI features we've been talking about. I mean, that's all we're talking about, basically. But
Microsoft is putting it everywhere.
Yeah, it's
getting absorbed.
A Copilot for everything.
Yeah, and that's not a bad advancement. It's a very good advancement.
Yeah,
but simply the hardware aspect of the data centers being able to support all of this AI integration is astronomical.
Yeah, it's we've talked about it so many times, and we're we're hitting like these limits of data center capacity, and it's kind of obvious. And you see that like feature pricing is based on that, right? So,
which is why like when Copilot first released, if you were under,
it was 300 users,
300
I think,
users,
was the minimum purchase.
It was $9,000
a month is what it would cost. Yeah,
because they could only offer it in large bulk.
And now,
pricing, basically.
Now anybody can buy it, but you have to buy Copilot as a full year. And some people don't want to. And some people don't want to make that jump. But, and I'll just do a small plug. You could get some of those features with Teams Premium. Like if you're only going to be using Meeting Recap in meeting notes, and you're not going to use Copilot for anything else, Teams Premium gives you almost all of those features.
All the meeting supporting stuff, all the communication stuff, outside of writing your emails for you.
Yeah.
Teams Premium is going to do meeting recap, meeting controls, the extra meeting features that are available for a leader.
Yeah.
The whole translation, transcription, the being able to manage backgrounds. Teams Premium will do all of that. It won't do all the other stuff that Copilot does.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking for AI-backed features for your meetings in Teams, Teams Premium
is a great choice. Yeah.
And it works great if you're using that along with Teams Voice, simply being able to do all of that on the fly, no matter who you're calling.
Yeah.
That saved me a couple of times with transcription, being able to be like, what did we talk about?
It is really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the number one feature that we like from Copilot, and we talked about that a little while ago.
And then you said for features that I am looking forward to in Teams, being able to communicate. I've always said this, and I'm waiting for the day that Teams Voice will allow you to communicate with people just directly from cell phone, but not for a call.
Yeah.
So like any sort of integration.
Well, they added the texting feature.
It's testing.
It's not something that we recommend, I don't think. I think that if you're going to use texting to communicate with clients, you should really think about using Omnichannel with Azure Communication Services and tying that into your Dynamics or whatever your CRM is. But at this point, I mean, it's a cool feature. I understand the use case, but we don't have a very good use case for it.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, you can still see it in some people who have adopted the more earlier release channels for Teams features, and you'll actually see the SMS consumption bar graph.
Yeah.
So you'll see that out there, but
yeah,
the use case, I mean, it's a nice feature, and I don't know how many companies will actually use it, but I know that I always thought that was something that should have been fairly simple for Teams to be able to implement, because it's already a chat-based interface already.
Yeah, but evidently it must have taken a huge lift to get it done, because
something
it took
about
years.
Translating a Teams message into SMS and back and forth. Something's got to be happening with that
translation. Yeah, it took a long time to get the feature, and I mean, like I said, I don't think it's, for our case, it's not incredibly useful. I'd love to hear, in the comments or something like that, use cases for what you could use this function for.
I could see sales using it a lot.
Maybe, you can communicate with clients, but once again, I really think that should be done more in Dynamics or your CRM. I don't know that Teams is the right place for that. There's a lot of edge cases for a lot of these tools, and we're not going to see all of them or understand all of them, but that's what we're here to try to do is read comments and feedback and come up with solutions for these edge cases. Yeah. And I think that Microsoft is giving us the tools to be able to do that in a lot of cases. And they're making it easier over time, right? Like, not everybody wanted to, a year ago, set up Azure Communication Service to be able to handle text messaging or to be able to, interface between things. So I think that they're trying to make it easier, but we'll see in the future, right?
And it's coming, and it's always in development. So
yeah,
anything you see Microsoft, usually another year down the line, something else is coming up right behind it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
features are always being developed and always on the way.
Well, thanks for talking to me today, and I can't wait to talk more about Teams with you in a future episode.
Absolutely.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John.